Karis Painter. This is Moves Unfiltered. We explore the dance communities of Philadelphia. We learn how dance is a vehicle of culture, conveying traditions, music, and history.
La clase de flamenco en Soundspace para mí ha sido lo máximo en mis últimos años de vida, porque esa hora y media, esa hora de baile me ha ayudado a liberarme de todo el estrés de la rutina de lo que abarca mi vida hoy en día, y es como, o sea, cuando yo estaba en Venezuela y aprendí a bailar flamenco, cuando tenía 15 años, lo hice como por unos 10 meses y más nunca volví a bailar flamenco, sino hasta hace 2 años en Soundspace.
As your host, I reveal the motivations, stories, and emotions behind the expressive quality of dance.
I like about flamenco that I can move a lot. It is amazing because I can dance a lot.
I came out in the 11th.
Hi, I'm Karis Painter. This is Moves Unfiltered on Usula Media. Today I'm joined by Liliana Ruiz of Suspiro Flamenco. She is a dancer, a choreographer, a teacher, and much, much more. And today we're going to share some of that with all of you. Welcome, Liliana.
Thank you so much, Karis, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be able to share with you guys part of my life.
I'm excited to learn, how did you get into dance? Why dance?
Well, since I was very young, my mom said to me, "Would you like to dance?" And I said, "Yes, I would love to dance." And I started dancing classical ballet. And a few years later, in a festival of the school, verbena, which is like a celebration for the Spanish community, it's like a festival. I saw a flamenco show, and I was inspired, and I actually wanted to dance that. And I said to my mom, "Mommy, can I dance that as well?" And she said, "Of course." So we asked for the information, and right away we went to school, and I started dancing classical Spanish and flamenco.
Now, you grew up in Mexico City,
Yes, I grew up in Mexico City.
but with a Spanish family. Could you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yes. My family comes from Spain, and I started elementary school in a kindergarten in a school called Colegio Madrid. They created, people coming from the Civil War created a school called Colegio Madrid, and I was surrounded with people from Spain all the time. Not only my family, but as well people from school. My teachers were from Spain. My friends were in the same spot, son or daughters from Spanish families. And in that environment, obviously, I started to learn a lot of the Spanish culture. So I do have a Mexican accent when I speak, but I use a lot of words from Spain. And people say to me, I know you're Mexican, but where do you get these words? And I'm thinking, well, because that's how I learned how to speak in a Spanish home in Mexico. So I was able to learn from both cultures growing up.
We were speaking earlier a little bit about growing up in an environment where music, art, dance is so alive, and what that meant to you in Mexico. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yes, in Mexico and in many South American countries and Latin American countries, music is part of our lives. And you grow with music, you grow with that rhythms since you're very young, and that becomes part of your life. So yeah, I was sharing with you a little bit before that it's very normal to have a meal and get together with friends in your house, and as soon as you're finished with your meal, you play the music and you start dancing, and it you grow up that way. I remember my parents having friends over with instruments and with a little band, and after we were finished dinner, next step was everybody takes the instruments and you start dancing, singing, playing the güiro, playing the bongos, playing the guitar. So yeah, it becomes part of your life, and for me has been the dance. The dance has been what I really want to do. I find myself sometimes cooking or talking on the phone and I'm doing a step or I'm doing like some kind of movement and I'm not even thinking that I'm doing that, right?
Absolutely. What does dance bring to you?
Happiness. I mean, dance for me fulfills my soul, and it's something that is not only a discipline, because dance is discipline, dance is movement, dance is exercise, dance is very positive way of expressing your emotions. So for me, dancing is really the nutrient of my soul. It really is.
Was it like that when you were young? What did your parents think of you dancing?
Well, it's very funny because after I was dancing ballet, which I did ballet until I was in my teen years. I danced ballet until I was 17 or 18 years old. But I was dancing flamenco simultaneously. But in the transition, I was doing some classical Spanish folklore, which my mom signed up with me
Ah, I
to
love
take the
that.
classes. And in many recitals, my mom was my partner. And we became, I mean, that really put us together as a family because then we asked my auntie, my dad's sister. So the three of us were dancing and we were doing the recitals. So that was also part of my family. And then later my dad learned how to dance the Sevillanas. So we could go to all the peñas flamencas in Mexico and we could all stand up and dance as part of the peña.
Interesting. Could you share a little bit? What is a peña?
A peña flamenca. Um, Usually, a peña flamenca is a get together. You get together with friends, and after, you're sharing, stories, you talk. But the main idea is to put music and then dance and be spontaneous. So in Spain, peñas flamencas or juergas flamencas, a group of people get together to join steps and dance, and everybody shares a little bit. It's like a little performance with volunteers. Now, the Peña Flamenca El Duende, which I used to be the Sevillanas teacher for many years, used to get together and we used to hire a show. But to open the show, all the members of the Peña will stand up and do Sevillanas and dance Sevillanas with live music or with recorded music. And people look for that once a month to get together and to improve their steps and to improve their choreographies so then they could stand up and dance Sevillanas. And it was great. It's like a little Feria de Sevilla all together with friends and communities.
Hearing this reminds me of my time in Argentina because they have peñas there as well, where there's eating and asado is a huge thing in Argentina and drinking, and then people will start playing music. And even though the tables are so tight, they will get up and dance traditional folklorico dances there.
Exactly. Yes, you get together, you socialize because socializing is very important. It's even better if you can socialize and exercise a little bit and dance sevillanas and have fun. by by dancing flamenco or dancing folklore. It really comes to sharing some art.
And sevillanas are a traditional dance in Spain.
Yes, not in all Spain. Spain has different regions and different provinces, and in each province, in each part of Spain, they have their own folklore. So sevillanas are performed more in south of Spain, in the region of Andalusia. Oh, I mean, in Madrid, they also have a lot of Sevillanas, and in Barcelona and big cities, they will have a tablao, or they will have people like Sevillanas around the world, to be honest. And if you learn the Sevillanas, you can dance with anybody around the world, because if you know the pattern, the traditional pattern, you don't have to rehearse, you don't have to. The only thing you have to say, baila Sevillanas? Do you dance for Sevillanas? And if the person says to you, yes, I dance Sevillanas, you can dance, because probably will change a style or a little movement, but the pattern will be the same thing. So northern Spain, their folklore is a little different. They have the bagpipes. In Galicia, they have the muñeiras gallegas and the jotas gallegas. Their bagpipe is a little different than the bagpipe in Asturias. I was the teacher of the Centro Asturiano, of the Cuadro Artístico del Centro Asturiano in Mexico for over 10 years. So I was able to learn a lot about the Asturian folklore, and they also dance with bagpipes and with percussions. And it's very interesting, because some of the vaqueiradas, some of the songs, they're very similar to cante hondo or flamenco. And actually there's a palo called el garrotín, which is based in a Asturiana, in an Asturian folklore song, which I have been trying to reach information, because I want to do a choreography towards a garrotín in the future. So yes, Spain has different backgrounds in their folklore, but Sevillanas, coming back to the Sevillanas topic, it's more performed in Andalusia.
And you mentioned that your father started dancing. Do you see a difference now that you have been living in the U.S., the difference between the U.S. and Mexico, your time in Spain, and the way that men maybe embrace dance versus here?
Yes, I see a difference. All right.
We could talk about this for hours. We have like 2 minutes.
I know. But in Spanish countries, men are the leaders. The men like dancing, and girls like guys that dance well. So the better the guy dances, girls want to dance more. So the guys want to learn how to dance, because they know the girls will want to dance with them.
So we shouldn't be on dating apps. We should be taking dance lessons. Is
Yes,
the moral.
exactly. You want to meet nice people, go. I mean, no, but they really enjoy it. And when I have done salsa, because I have also done some Latin dances, the better the guy is, the better the girl looks. And if the
Yes.
girl looks well, and if she looks good, people love it. But really, who is really doing the main work in having the girl dancing well is the guy leading correctly when you're doing social
'Cause
dancing.
he's choosing the moves and what comes next.
Exactly. So, bottom line, yes. And when my dad learned Sevillanas, is because he was seeing all these guys standing up and having a great time dancing Sevillanas with all the girls, you know?
So do you think there's a stigma in the U.S. or there's not a stigma in other Latin or Spanish-speaking countries?
I think it comes with culture. I think that when you grow up seeing your parents dancing, you don't hesitate in saying, I can't dance, or I'll never do that, because you haven't seen it. So you cannot crave what you have never tried. So if it comes in your life as natural as you see, my dad will stand up, I'll dance. And when my mom and my dad were dancing Sevillanas, people loved it, because as a couple, they were always dancing, and they were example for other couples, and they were you can be as well a leader when they see you dancing. So if you see more men dancing will want to be
encourage you.
exactly.
I love that. We're going to take a short break. We're with Liliana Ruiz. When we come back, we'll talk about some of her accomplishments, how we can get more people, men, children into dance. I'm Karis Painter. This is Moves Unfiltered on Usala Media.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education.
No one receives a diploma alone.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Our hearts are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps.
Did Pete saying mean things bother you?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
That's good. This is Karis Painter. We're on Moves Unfiltered on Usala Media. I'm with Liliana Ruiz, who's a dancer, a choreographer, a teacher, and much, much more. We were just talking about appreciating the art of dance and seeing it. Could you talk a little bit about your accomplishments? You shared about your background. What are some things that you're proud of? Because your resume and experience is amazing.
I have to share that, yes, I've been very disciplined and I have been able to accomplish a lot of things, but I always want to grow more. So in my background, my first show paid. I was 13 years old. It was my first professional dancing experience. They paid for my plane, they paid for my hotel, my show, and since then I started being a professional dancer. I was able to study flamenco with masters. My list will be, I wouldn't finish listing everybody that I have been studying with from Spain, from Mexico, but most likely in Spain, and people that have helped me in my career. But I have, growing up, I was able to dance in different companies, and then I created my own school. I had my own dancing school. The name was Suspiro Español. But when I moved to the States, I know that the name was going to be a little bit hard with social media and writing the Español with a tilde, with a little thing. Tilde is what goes above the ñ. So I created a company in the U.S. called Suspiro Flamenco. And other accomplishments, I have been able to dance with orchestras around the U.S. I have been able to travel. I was the director of the Centro Asturiano for 10 years, the artistic group of the Centro Asturiano for 10 years before I came to the USA. In the USA, I was able to extend my dancing career with ballroom. That was my first job in the USA in New York Express. So I was dancing flamenco, but at the same time, I got trained for ballroom, and I was instructor. I became a intermediate instructor for ballroom and did some salsa as well on the side. But focus in my career in flamenco, I have been able to dance with Plácido Domingo in the Auditorio Nacional of Mexico City. I was able to work with Julio Iglesias for some of the albums presented in Mexico. And in the US, I have been dancing with, as I mentioned, with orchestras. I was Carmen. I did the version, I choreograph and interpret Carmen, the Russian version, which is not opera. We didn't have opera, but it was fascinating having to create this character and having to present the story of Carmen just through dance. It was incredible. I learned a lot. I grew as a dancer a lot because I was able to not only do dances, but to put those dances in a story. Recently, I created the show Las Estaciones del Alma, which is the seasons of the soul, which is a story about where you go in life. You can have ups, you can have downs, and I put them in 2 seasons. What it represents spring for you, and it's probably a moment in your life that you have a lot of hope and you see life coming to you. And then you have a summertime where you get involved probably with people, water, ocean, then fall in love, fall, that is very romantic. I don't know why I associate the romantic with fall, but I guess it's part
The
of
leaves, walking,
wind,
walking hand in hand.
exactly. And then I associated winter with lost, with cold, with moments that you have to get over. And the important message in that show was spring is coming again. So you have to work through it, and dancing is the best way to work with emotions.
I love that. What I think I love most about dance that makes it very different from sports is the expressive quality of dance. That each individual, regardless of the choreography, can put themselves in it. You were sharing with me a little bit about your inspiration for choreography. Where do you start? What inspires you? If you could elaborate on that.
Yes. Dancing is not only movements. Of course, you have to have the technique and you have to have the movements and you have to memorize it. But dancing, I call that technique and I call that steps. But dancing has to bring emotions, have to have that passion, has to have that energy, that inner part of you projected through movements. And when you project yourself in through movements, then you can touch other hearts. You obviously touch your heart, but then you can transmit your feelings. So choreographing is beautiful because you can create the contrast of emotions within one dance. Sometimes I'm inspired by the music, sometimes I'm inspired by the moment of my life. Sometimes I'm inspired for who is going to receive that choreography. It's very different to choreograph for myself than when I'm choreographing for other people, because you also have to figure it out how can they create from those movements a dance where they can really get it into themselves and project what people need to project.
Now, you're a professional dancer. We're going to
Yes.
transition into how do we bring dance, these art forms, to people who didn't study dance as children, but they're still interested, or how do we even spark their interest?
I think it's part of our nature. We're part of the human nature is that rhythm. Since the man is man, they do different rhythms, and people like music. It's part of you. It can be with guitar, it can be with just drums, or it can be with anything, but you create music. And when you create music, the music is so inviting to you that you start moving automatically. How can you transmit it? Showing, teaching, being an example. I'm a school teacher, And obviously, my students know that I'm a flamenco dancer. And I say flamenco dancer because I have to teach them the difference between flamingo and flamenco. So we start with there. Yes, so flamenco dancer. And I share with them and I teach them. And some of them probably won't try to do the steps, but at least they start getting involved with music, with poems, with information, with videos. We don't have to be always the protagonic of what we're doing, but if you share with them, some of them they will pick it. And a few years ago, we did a fair, a festival in school, which it was the language festival. And part of my project was students dancing as the entertainment. And they had a great time, and I had a great time because if I'm having fun, most of the people are having fun too.
Yes.
And it was a great way of interacting with them. It was not necessarily flamenco, but it was a little bit more social dance. And but I think by showing and inviting people to participate, if you start participating, if you try it, maybe you might like it, but you will never like something that you never try.
Now, you teach flamenco at Soundspace, a dance studio in Philadelphia. If I've never taken dance a day in my life, what advice do you have for me? And what would a class as a basic beginner bring to me?
Well, beginner classes is what I would recommend, obviously. And we go slow, we get the steps. So it's never late to start. So for me, it's a challenge because if this is something that I believe that if you can walk, you can dance. Probably not perfect, but you can dance. And as soon as you get involved with the music and the rhythm and trying to memorize it, when you turn around and you see the clock, that clock is the hour already finished. I mean, your class is already done. And it's incredible that when I see students that they start getting into it, they have been asking me, can I record it? Can I practice at home? So it is a growth not only in dancing, but in a challenge. So you use your mind, you use your body, your energy, and it's that time is for you. And I think it's emotional healthy to have 1 hour for you to not think about anything. And actually, you go into that classroom, you leave behind everything, you focus in you, and that brings you not only you create endorphins, which makes you physically to feel better, you have an outlet of your stress, of if you're stressed. And if you're not stressed, then you have 1 hour just for yourself to enjoy your whatever you need to do.
And what I love about dance classes or dance in general is that nobody's on their phone, that it's time for you to be in the moment, to listen to the music, we were talking earlier about the connection with individuals, that even though it's an individual dance, that you're still in a room connecting with the people around you.
Yes. Dancing is something individual, but as well, it's an inner energy because you're feeding yourself and you're working with all these different emotions and stress and happiness, sadness, anything. But at the same time, you are working with other people. And for example, coming back to the Sevillanas, you dance it with a partner. So when you get to dance with your partner, you as well are dancing with somebody else, and you're trying to do it well for you and for the other person. And it becomes like a little game. You don't figure it out, but you're trying to really go into the next step and this and that, and always trying to get it better and your movement and correcting yourselves. So I think and you get to know people. You meet people that they share with you the same interest. And for example, tonight that I invited some of the students to go and see a flamenco show, it's a nice moment to share that same interest of dancing, going and doing other activities and creating friends. I have friends who I have danced with that they have been friends for many, many years. And the reason is because we share dancing.
Share a love.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 30 seconds. Advice for parents or anybody who's interested in getting into dance, or flamenco especially.
Go to classes, try to start getting information. You're very welcome to start with my classes, the kids, adults, beginners, advanced, intermediate. And something that I want to say, it's passion for dancing can motivate you to overcome a lot of your daily problems. So that gives you a motivation to move on with life.
I love that. Liliana Ruiz, who is a choreographer, a dancer, a teacher. She has a company, Suspiro Flamenco. She also teaches at Soundspace. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Karis, for having me here. And I hope to see a lot of people involved with flamenco.
Definitely. It's always nice to bring more people in. I'm Karis Painter. This is Moves Unfiltered on Usala Media. Until next time.